when I went through treatment that, I didn't have a lot of life skills. When you're drinking, you numb everything. You don't get experiences as far as high highs and low lows. You don't get experiences of learning how to be an adult. You're stunted in your growth emotionally and mentally. So when I got sober, I had a lot of catching up to do. And I've talked about this in the past. A lot of my thing was I turned to anger, and anger was always right there. And I remember going to Horace one day and telling Horace, I said, I'm just angry all the time. I'm angry because I didn't know how to live. I didn't have any life skills. And, you throw somebody like that out in the big bad world, and it's a scary place. And I didn't know how to accomplish those things.
Hello again. Welcome to Push Each Other to the Top podcast. It's Brent and I again. Here we are. I'm in Arizona, and Brent is where are you at? Tell the audience where you're at. Right?
I'm in Thailand. I'm in Phuket, in the little town of Patong. Wow. I'll be here for the next 3 months or so. Just a little vacation, just get away.
Just a little vacation, 3 months long. Oh, I love that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So last time was our DNA story, the whole adoption DNA thing, and that was really fun and to think about and how that impacted a lot of people. And then, you were just telling me, you want to continue the story of sobriety and how after you got out of treatment and made those following years that, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, I don't think, from that point on. You still got to fight for it. So,
yeah. I just think it's important that, the reason we're doing this is to give people hope. And, it's basically, we hear this all the time in the program. If I can do it, you can do it. Or, if I can stay sober, you can stay sober. And I feel that is so true. I think one of the things about doing a podcast and talking, with Jonathan, and, we look at the stats and who's watching and this and that. And, I was thinking yesterday that, I know a couple of people saw the first few episodes and one of the things that I've always been willing to do is to be very vulnerable. I don't worry about judgment. I throw myself out there. If people judge me, that's up to them, But the reason I do that, and I don't have that pushback when it comes to just opening myself up, is because I'm here to help people. The part of the stories that I want to talk about today is some of the things that I faced shortly after getting sober. And, like I've said in previous podcasts that, I started drinking when I was about 12 years old. So, I got sober when I was 34. So I was a 34-year-old man with the mindset of a 12-year-old. That's what they tell you in when I went through treatment, that, I didn't have a lot of life skills. When you're drinking, you numb everything. You don't get experiences as far as high highs and low lows. You don't get experiences of learning how to be an adult. You're stunted in your growth emotionally and mentally. So when I got sober, I had a lot of catching up to do. And I've talked about this in the past. A lot of my thing was I turned to anger, and anger was always right there. And I remember going to Horace one day and telling Horace, I said, I'm just angry all the time. I'm angry because I didn't know how to live. I didn't have any life skills. And, you throw somebody like that out in the big bad world, and it's a scary place. And I didn't know how to accomplish those things. And I remember telling Horace one day, I'm angry. He goes, okay, this is what we're going to do. I said, all right, what are we going to do, Horace? He says, well, tomorrow when you wake up, he says, I want you to be angry. I want you to be angry all day long. I just want you to grit your teeth, kick the pill, do whatever, kick the dog. I just want you angry all day. Do not be angry.
Wow.
And I'm just thinking, well, that kind of sounds fun. Just let it loose. I'm always holding back and trying to, control it. And what
Yeah.
he's telling me is, well, if you want to be that way, go ahead and be that way and see where it gets you. And
Mm,
so I remember waking up that day and, oh my gosh, here we go. Oh, I'm gonna be angry. I'm growling at everybody and I'm kicking the dog and I'm, just. And I'll tell you what, I lasted about I don't even know if it was 5 minutes, and I was wore out. Just like it just took all the energy I had to be angry. So I learned real quick what Horace was trying to tell me.
mm,
Living your life angry is just it's just a drain of your energy. It's just a waste of time,
mm,
and and it gave me the ability to realize that I could choose which way I wanted to be. I knew that I didn't want to be angry. I'd
mm,
been angry my whole life. When I was out there running and gunning and doing all the things that I was doing, that was my go-to. I
mm,
could keep people away from me. I could control situations. I could control people out of fear. I could do all these things with my anger. And now I'm sober. These tools, those old tools aren't working anymore. I don't
mm,
want to be angry. I don't want to growl at people. I don't want to act like a jerk all the time. And so something was changing inside of me. Once again, I started to recognize that who I wanted to be was somebody totally different than who I'd become.
mm,
So I I started going down that path, and that the steps definitely help when you get there. Step 3 and 4 and 5, and you take a look at yourself and you work with other people and you get out of yourself and you start. I went back to work and I accomplished a lot of really cool things at work, and I went back to school and I, was able to have some successes there. I think in podcast 2 I talk about I haven't failed one time since I quit drinking, and that is such a truth. Everything I've done has been a success. Now, they haven't always been pleasant successes. Some of them have been learning experiences, and I want to tell a story today about one of those experiences that really really it was a big lesson, but it was a very painful lesson. I've in my sobriety over the years, I've experienced quite a bit of emotional pain, and I do not like emotional pain. I mean, it's not like you can go take an ibuprofen and go lay down and close your eyes and it goes away. I'm talking about emotional pain that just hits you right in the gut and it never leaves, and it's just horrible. And when you don't have the life skills to face emotional pain, I think everybody that goes through life, when you're a kid and you go, you're adolescent and you go into your adulthood, you learn to face hard things along the way. Life comes at you pretty quick. You get to feel success, you get to feel a lot of disappointment, and you get to experience some of that emotional pain. And when you've ran from that and hid from that for so many years, and suddenly here I am sober at 34 years old, I had no experience with that stuff. It was very raw. I mean, it was I just and I think that's why a lot of people struggle of going back out and relapsing, is
mm,
because some of this emotional pain and some of these things that we just don't have the tool set to face it. So
mm,
we just do what we we know is going to work, even though it's just a short period of time. You know, people think that if I take a drink, this emotional pain will go away. Well, all it does is throw fuel on the fire. All it does is postpone it. All it does is push it back. It doesn't cure it. It doesn't fix it. It just numbs it for the moment and the time. And now you throw on a bunch of guilt and shame because here we go again. We've gone back out. So I've been fortunate not to be able. I haven't relapsed since I came into the program. I've never gone back out, and I'm grateful that I walked through some of that emotional pain and learned how to deal with it. And the story I want to share is a personal one. It's not easy to talk about, but uh, I guess I was about 4 years sober, and Elaine and we had certainly got back together after I got out of treatment. And boy, I'll tell you what, that was a chore. I mean, I remember walking in the house when I got out of the treatment center, and I don't think I was home for more than 15 minutes, and she was on the phone in the other room talking to her sponsor. I was on the phone in the other room talking to my sponsor, and it was like, oh my gosh. I came home and she didn't know how to handle me and I didn't know how to handle her. I think I really screwed up because I left a cupboard door open or something, and she just lost it. Man, she put her foot down, and she was not going to enable me anymore. You know, I remember if there was two socks on the floor, I picked one of them up and she picked the other one up. Everything was 50-50, man.
Wow.
I was gonna, she always took care of the house chores and stuff, and she wasn't doing that no more. So, boy, I walked into a buzzsaw, and it took a little while to get used to that.
Mhm. Mhm.
She made me do my own laundry. I remember that. The first batch of laundry I did, I turned all my underwear and white socks pink. I threw them in, and I just knew she was going to fire me and say, "Hey, you get the, I'll do your laundry. Obviously, you don't know how to do it." But she just let me wear pink stuff, and I didn't like wearing pink stuff, so I learned how to do laundry. She was not going to enable me anymore. So the natural consequences of that behavior is, I did not like wearing pink t-shirts. so uh, so I changed that. But as things went on, we did really good. She worked her program, I worked my program.
Mhm.
She had a sponsor, and she was sponsoring people, and we were kind of the 12-step couple in our little community. I mean, we we spoke together. We'd go to meetings and stuff, and they'd ask us to share, and we did everything by the book, and we were very successful doing that. We took the kids to Alateen, so it was kind of a family affair. Alateen was for the teenage kids that grew up in an alcoholic home, so they could go share their experience, strength, and hope, and
Mhm.
hang out with other kids that had gone through the same experiences. So we were involved up to our eyeballs. I I uh, I remember one time when I think I was still in treatment. I I went to a meeting, and I sat at the back of the room, and right next door in the meeting where they were having an Al-Anon meeting, and Elaine was in there, and all these women, and I could hear Elaine laughing. And I sat in that back room, and I was just stewing. I was like,
Yeah.
I know she's in there just talking about me. She's just in there telling stories about me, and I'm just not going to put up with this.
Yeah.
So when the meeting got over, I stomped in that room and I found her, and I just said, "What the are you in here? I hear you in here laughing and joking." I said, "I guess you think this is really funny, and you're in here telling stories about me." And this woman walked up to me, and she stuck her finger in the middle of my chest, and she said, what do you think? She said, no, she said, do you think you're so damn important that we're in here talking about you?
Oh, wow.
Oh my God, that's the last time I stomped in an Al-Anon meeting into an Al-Anon meeting. And boy, that backfired. I
Yeah.
felt like I was about 2 inches tall. She jumped right in the middle of me. And she said a lot more than that I'm not going to share with you, but uh, it was an ugly experience.
Wow.
But yeah, Al-Anon was a big deal. But Elaine and I, like I said, we'd gone through a lot together. We'd walked through a lot of stuff, and about 4 years into my sobriety, uh, we just we just we just we just wasn't getting along. I mean, life was not good, and some things happened. We had a big blowout, and I knew I had to leave. I just had to leave, and so I actually quit my job, and I went in, and one of the guys that I'd went through treatment with had a little construction company over in Hawaii, and I called him up. His name was Kelly. Called up Kelly, Kelly and his wife, um, and I asked Kelly. I said, "Hey, do you have some work for me if I came over there? Could you put me up and put me to work?" Blah blah blah. He says, "Yeah, yeah, we can do that. Just come on over." So I just felt like I needed to get away, and I just didn't want to make things worse. I just knew that my anger had come up, and I just start yelling and screaming and taking the situation and turned it into something really, really super ugly. So I uh, I just had this intuitive thought that I needed to leave, and so I packed my bags and I flew to Hawaii. It was like the 1st of January. Uh, I remember it was a huge snowstorm. It was snowing to beat the band, and I didn't like flying anyway. And here I
Mm,
am getting on an airplane in the middle of a snowstorm, and
mm,
I thought for sure I was going to die. But
mm.
I went to Hawaii, and it, beautiful Hawaii, right? It's just gorgeous there, and so get there, and it's not at all what I thought it was going to be. The people are not friendly.
Mm.
Kelly and his family were super nice. And they lived in a neighborhood, a Kahala, that was a really, really nice neighborhood. And they had to live there because they had two boys and they were both towheads. They were both blonde. And that was about the only place on the island that they could go to school without getting beat up every day
Wow.
because the locals didn't like blonde haired, blue eyed kids.
Wow.
So it was, and I had no idea that was all going on. So it was weird. The culture was different. People were not friendly. It was a big city. Everything was a pain in the butt. But I just had this huge. As soon as I got there, I started missing my family. I'm missing my kids. I'm missing the wife. I don't know what she's doing. I'm is this going to last forever? What am I going to do? And
Mm.
I can't sleep, and I'm just worried about the whole situation. And my morning routine we lived just down the street from Diamond Head, and I would get up in the morning and I'd sit on the edge of my bed because every day from like it was like 4:30 in the morning to like 5:30, it rained. It just poured rain. And then like a switch at 5:30, it would just stop. And it was like this every single day.
Mm.
And some days it'd go a little longer, but basically right at about the same time, which gave me the perfect opportunity to go to Diamond Head and climb to the top and watch the sun come out of the ocean,
Mm.
sunrise. Just beautiful. There was always mist and stuff on the ocean, so you couldn't really see the sun come up, but it got light and it was just brilliant, bright and everything. And
Mm.
so I'd go to the top of Diamond Head there was an old World War II bunker up there, and they had stairs that went up, and I think I counted them one time, it was 132 or something like that stairs. And so I would run up those stairs, and I'd go to the top of the bunker, and I'd take my daily reflections book and some of my meditation books with me, and I'd go sit up on top of this old bunker. It was a beautiful view. I mean, you could see out on the water. To one side, there was a beautiful park and Waikiki Beach and all the hotels and just an absolutely gorgeous view. And then, of course, to the east, I see the sunrise. But uh, I just felt so alone. And I would sit up there every day and I would pray. Now, you know me, I hadn't been praying for very long, and I had gotten some pretty good success out of some of the prayers that I'd been saying. But I'm here to tell you, I prayed and I felt nothing. I felt absolutely nothing. It was just, I wasn't getting any relief whatsoever. I, I was so baffled because I was so sincere. I was begging for help. I was like, just show me the path, just give me a way out of this. And I hurt so bad, man. My guts just tore me up, and I felt nothing. I felt nothing, and that went on for a long time, and now I look back at that experience, and I didn't drink. I ended up bringing Elaine over to Hawaii. I saved as much money as I could, and then I brought her over, so we could talk and try to work things out. And she came, and we ended up reconciling, and we ended up getting back together eventually. But one of the reasons I wanted to share this story is, that prayer that I was saying, that I just felt so abandoned. I felt abandoned from God. I just felt like God didn't want, once again, here I am, and God doesn't want anything to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
And because Brent isn't getting his way. Brent isn't getting what he wanted. I had expectations that I was going to pray like I'd always prayed. I prayed to stay sober, and boom, I find myself not being thirsty, and, things are working. And it took me a long time to realize what was really going on here. This was probably one of my most spiritual experiences that I've had in sobriety. My God is not codependent. My God doesn't need Al-Anon. My God loved me enough just to let me feel the pain. Sometimes it's okay to hurt. Sometimes it's all right to feel that emotional pain. It's not going to kill us. I always think that, human beings have been on this planet for a zillion years. We have all faced, through all these years and years and years of evolution, that we've all faced this emotional turmoils. And I believe that in our body, in our DNA, we know how to survive that pain. That it's been embedded in us. And I don't know why that thought gave me comfort, but it was like, I'm not the only one on the planet that's ever felt this. I'm not, for generations and generations and generations, there's been love stories that have gone bad, that people hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that our higher power has given us the tools to be able to get through to the other side of that.
Mm-hmm.
Without taking a substance, without doing anything, just sitting in it, just feeling it, just realizing maybe your part in it, how did we get to this place? Well, it wasn't all her fault. You know, what caused this to happen? And how do you get to the other side of it? So, yeah, I don't know how long it was after, I got back to Hawaii that I sat there and I thought about those prayers up on that mountain, up on Diamond Head and the beauty. And I mean, I put myself in one of the most beautiful places on the planet, and I felt totally cut off from my higher power, totally abandoned, you know? And now, Jonathan, I look back at that and I think, man, he was just, he just, he took one small step back and said, Brent, I've given you the tools to survive this. I've given you everything you need, and a little bit of pain is going to be, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, what, and I don't know if this makes any sense to anybody else, but it was a moment in time for me that I just really had an awakening and realized that pain isn't always bad.
Yeah.
You know?
Thought comes to me too that, I believe sometimes God is, when there isn't an answer, maybe it's because he trusts us to just go ahead and go forward.
Yeah,
Like, hey, like you said, that's sort of built into us. Our ancestors been doing it for a long time. They've had
yeah,
heartbreaks, and that solution is there. And he trusts you to get through it. Just keep moving forward. And that's a huge compliment, I think, to think that our God is one that can say, yeah, I'm just going to back away, let you feel this, because I know you're going to keep moving forward in a positive way. And so there's
yeah.
a,
And I want to tell the listeners out there, you got to remember, I've had no religious background. I have no spiritual training. I had no. This is all the stuff that I got to learn
Mhm,
on my own.
mhm,
This is the stuff I got to experience.
mhm,
So when all this is happening to me, I start realizing what you just said.
mhm,
I start realizing that, you know, uh, my higher power is just like, for lack of better words, a father, yeah, to me. And I remember my mother. I used to talk to my mother about my kids, and they're going through bad times, and uh, and my mother used to always tell me, Brent, it's okay for them to struggle. It's okay. You don't have to save them. You don't have to save them every time. It's
wow,
okay to let them struggle. And boy, it used to bug me so bad when she'd say that. I don't know why it bothered me so much, but it was like, just let them struggle. And I think that's kind of what my higher power was doing. At least that's the message I got years later. Was I I needed to, that pain. I never want to experience that again. That emotional distress. I don't want to do that anymore. So it changes who I am. It changes the core of Brent. It changes who, I'm not as cocky. I'm not as arrogant. I'm not as, pushy. I ended up treating, I believe, uh, Elaine and other relationships that I value uh, differently because of that experience.
mhm,
And
mhm,
it really changes you to the core.
mhm,
And I hate to say it, but in recovery, the times that I've gone through the most emotional pain, the times that I've experienced uh, all these disappointments and hurts and things are the times I grew the most. These are the times that I got the opportunity to grow up. And I think that's a very important word, growing up, because again, I was 12 years old, 34-year-old body, and I needed to grow up in
mhm,
so many different ways. And
mhm,
this is one more experience where I got to learn how to grow up and be a man and take responsibility for my relationships and take a look at my part in things. If you don't want to feel this emotional pain, then you better do things differently. But, you know, and once again, this is just another experience that it, if I can do it, you can do it. You know, that, this is one of many, many, many things that I walked through in my recovery to get to the other side, to get to that place where I learned how to live happy, joyous, and free. Uh, I'm not, I don't live in the bondage of self anymore. I don't live in that place where I, that Brent's my worst enemy,
Mhm.
because for a long, long time, that's how it was. And I don't I don't feel that way today. I remember Horace used to tell me all the time, if you're alone, Brent, you're in bad company. You're in really bad company, you know? And I don't feel like I'm in bad company anymore. I feel like I'm in pretty darn good company. And it's a result of just being able to walk through this stuff without a substance. I see so many people out there, they get, and I just like, I like to, say it's like stubbing your toe, you got to run and take an aspirin because you stubbed your toe. I need an ibuprofen. Oh my God. It's going to hurt for maybe 5 minutes, dude. You don't need to take anything. You just need to feel the pain for a minute and it'll be fine. And I just know so many people out there that every time they ran into, in the beginning, you're so sensitive to everything. Oh my gosh, all your senses are so alive that
Mhm.
you don't know how to handle it.
Mhm.
So you want to find a substance to make you better. Well, what do you mean better?
Mhm.
What does that mean? Numb? Is that better? Being numb? Is that what you're looking for?
Mhm.
See, I decided I was just going to feel. And it was awkward as hell. I think I've shared the story with you. I'm home watching TV and some guy on the TV wins $10,000 on Price is Right, and I'm bawling my eyes out because I'm so happy for him. What's wrong with me? I am totally losing my mind.
I
I'm
love
so sensitive.
I
You
love
know,
it. I
I could
love it.
feel his joy. I could feel
Yeah.
his happiness. I could feel him. And I hadn't felt anything like that for a long, long time. So I
Isn't
was so out of whack.
isn't that where we want to be? Like we want to have the empathy and the sympathy for others. Like is that I mean, obviously too much of that, you're going to be crying about everything, right? But but there's a healthy balance, I think, of being that
Yes.
sensitive and like you said, going from 0 to 100 after you got clean. Yeah, that's wow. And so anyway, there's something interesting about that, being able to have that sensitivity in the appropriate ways, right, for others.
Yeah. And and we talk about this a lot in recovery is we're always seeking balance. Our balance is way off. Either we're too high or we're too low or we're
Mhm.
too happy, we're too sad. You're always trying to strive for that balance.
Mhm.
I always think about, when I was drinking, I used to like to get to this one spot, I'd drink until I got there. I didn't want to be sloppy drunk where I was falling down, but I wanted to be pretty hammered to where I was just fun and having a good time.
Mhm.
So there was that spot that I wanted to hit.
Mhm.
I was shot right past that spot. It
Right,
seemed like the longer I drank, the less time I spend in that sweet spot.
right,
I
right.
was, I went right by it. And it's like that with everything. You just got to learn
Mm.
that those places that you want to live, uh, that balance that you strive is ongoing. You don't just say, okay, I'm gonna wake up this morning and I'm gonna be balanced all day. There's your ups and downs, your highs and lows, and it's you just keep striving for that ability to live in that spot. And I think one of the best tools to do that is living in the moment. You know,
Mm.
I when I fear always comes from the future, and guilt always comes from the past. And if I live right here, right now, I don't have any guilt and I don't have any fear. I live right here, right now. And I can take an inventory and say, I got a roof over my head. There's the air conditioners on. I'm cool. I feel very comfortable. I'm getting a little hungry. I haven't eaten today, so I'll take care of that. And I just take a little inventory of where I am right here, right now.
Wow.
And when I do that, my life's pretty darn good. I mean, I'm I'm one of the lucky people on this planet that woke up this morning sober. I don't regret anything I did yesterday. I have no dreads, or I have to look over my shoulder to see who's chasing me or coming after me. You know, I'm pretty content with my life, and that's the balance that I think we all strive to live in. Is that place where uh, we're just happy. And I always use the dog analogy because I just think dogs are so good at living in the moment, man. Every time I get out of sorts, I look at a dog, and you can yell at that dog, kick that dog, and 2 seconds later, that dog just loves you, wagging his tail. It doesn't even remember you just scolded it and kicked it in the butt. They just living right in the moment. And dogs always remind me to live in the moment.
Just trying to be happy. Just trying to be right here, right now. That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. Yeah. This, again, I think this pattern that I'm seeing through all the conversations again is this one of going through the obstacle, right? It's not avoiding the obstacle, not going around it, not trying to drill under it or jump over the top of it or something. It's going right through it.
Yes. And I think it's very important that, there comes a time and a place where we can step back and take a realistic look of what that pain is all about. Is it because it's really easy for me to blow things way out of proportion.
Mm-hmm.
I could take a little tiny problem and blow it up to a huge problem, because one thing that I've noticed in recovery is people are addicted to chaos.
Hmm.
People love chaos. They've lived in it their whole life. Now they'll argue with you and they'll say, "Oh, I have not." But you watch their actions, and they go from one chaotic moment to the next, to the next, to the next. They love stuff stirred up. They are so uncomfortable when things are quiet. I remember calling Horace one day. I said, "Horace, I got a problem." He goes, "Oh, okay. What is it? Just tell me." I said, "You know what? I woke up this morning and it's quiet in the house. The kids are all doing what they're supposed to do. The wife is happy. I got all my bills paid. I'm like, I just feel like something ain't right. Something's going on." He goes, "Have you been saying the serenity prayer?" And I says, "Yep." He goes, "Well, there you go." And he hung up. He didn't even tell me. That was it. That's it. You're done.
Yeah.
God grant me the serenity. Well, I had serenity and I didn't like it. I've been praying for something that I didn't even know how to handle. Serenity? Shit, I want chaos.
Yeah. What's that? Serenity.
Stir my life up.
Yeah.
Call me names. Do something. Don't give me serenity.
Wow.
Oh, so funny. He just hung up.
Is that mind trying to reach for the fear, trying to reach for the chaos?
It's just, I think you just feel comfortable in certain situations, and you got to learn not to live in chaos. Mm-hmm. Now I talk about this a lot. This is a program of action. Okay. And here we go again. People love to live in chaos. Well, you got to learn not to live in chaos. Well, you don't just sit back and think about it. You've got to pick up some tools, and you've got to open your mind and take responsibility for chaos in your life. It's not the guy at the grocery store that just didn't treat you right. It's not the guy driving down the freeway that just cut you off. You know, if I'm in a good spiritual place, a guy cuts me off on the freeway and I don't get upset. But if I'm not in a good spiritual place and somebody cuts me off, man, I want to chase them down. I want to thump them. And it ain't about them. It's about me.
Mhm.
So I got to look at me. I'll never forget my friend in Bangkok. He drives a tuk-tuk. In Bangkok, there's 11 million people. When I tell you traffic is incredibly crazy, trust me when I tell you this, it is nuts. People are cutting people off left. I mean, we're in this tuk-tuk and cars are just flying by us, almost tearing the front bumper off. I'm looking at my friend and he doesn't even blink an eye. And I'm like, if that happened in the US, there would be birds flying. I mean, you'd lose your mind. You'd
Yes.
chase people down. You'd be screaming all the time. And so he doesn't speak real good English. And it took me about 2 hours to explain my question to him. And I said, Joe, you got to explain this to me because this guy cuts you off, almost hits you. I mean, he's jeopardizing you and my life, and you don't even look at him. He goes, oh, Brent. He goes, he's in my life. He's out of my life. What?
Whoa.
What did you just say? He's in my life. He's out of my life. Oh my gosh. Is that incredible?
Wow.
And that's all he said to me.
Oh,
People are in your life and they're out of your life. How long do I hold on to that guy on the freeway that cuts me off?
right.
How long do I hold on to that resentment because somebody treated me wrong at the grocery store? How long do I hold on to a resentment because my kid didn't say what I thought he should be saying to me, or my wife, or my coworkers, or my boss? How long do I hold on to this stuff? So I've got to change who I am to be able to find that serenity and peace. In my life, out of my life. Why do I hold on? To make myself miserable because I'm more comfortable in chaos? I think so. Yeah, let's just live in chaos. Hell, that's fun. That's exciting. Yeah, we can growl at people. We can do all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, get ulcers, maybe have a heart attack if we get wound up enough.
That's serious. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. That's some philosophy right there from your tuk-tuk buddy. Wow. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's true. I think, I've always tried to have this forgiveness in my heart, but this human part of me, that my brain and my ego tells me, no, I gotta get back. I gotta get even or something, or I gotta have justice in this situation or something, and like you said, someone cuts you off, you go cut them off or whatever happened, like that's just not a good way to live.
No, no. And you know what? You know what's really cool is when you don't do that. When you do it different.
Right.
When you don't get upset. When he's in your life, out of your life. When you actually do that,
Yeah.
it feels so good. It's just like it's so empowering. I mean, it just feels wow, I'm growing up. I'm 70 something years old and I'm finally getting this thing,
Really trying to figure this thing out. Yeah.
Finally, and it's you get that little reward that you're not a victim to everything in life. You got a role to play in this. And when you take responsibility for yourself and quit being a victim of every person out there just because they're having a bad day, doesn't mean that you got to buy into that crap, just and trust me when I tell you this, I'm no saint. I'll tell you this right now, and I'll walk out the door and some guy will almost run me over on the street, and I'll be cussing him. I mean,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
this
Sure.
is a this is a you know this is constant work. This is constant. The clues to me today is when I get in that behavior a lot, I have a way out of it. I've got a tool in my toolbox to say, okay, Brad, you don't want to live like this anymore. You know, you don't want to react to everybody out there. You've got choices today. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's good that you're catching yourself, I guess, right? It's to me, it's the it's the recovery, right? When the incident happens, how quickly am I able to catch myself and
right,
get back to where I need to be?
yeah, that balance. Yeah,
Yeah, like you said, the balance of that. Yeah, that's really cool.
yep. I don't know how long we've been going here, but I'm getting the feeling that we're running out of time. It's
We're
my
about there. Yeah.
Yeah, my inner clock's going off saying,
Okay, that's
you
it.
know, if we go into the next story, we might be here for
Might be
a while.
another hour or two. Yeah.
Might be another hour and another episode. But
Oh, this is good.
I just want to say to the people out there that, you know, I've been able to experience a lot of things, and I feel like I've got some wisdom and some tools that I share openly with you and the world because I think that, you know, as the title says, we push each other to the top here. We help each other, and I want to help you have a better life. I want to enable you to pick up some of these tools and to experience some of the stuff that I've experienced and be able to navigate life on life's terms. I came from I came with a lot of things stacked against me, and by tapping into some of these things, I've been able to accomplish a lot, and I just appreciate the people that were there for me, and I just want to encourage people that you too can feel this, and if you're struggling with depression or whatever it might be, there's a way out. Life, trust me when I tell you this, life is so precious. Life is so, so precious. If I would have given up at 20 years sobriety, if I would have given up at 10 years sobriety or whatever and picked up a drink, I wouldn't know Jonathan. I wouldn't have any of these experiences.
Mm,
I would have I would have lost so much.
mm,
When I came to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and I learned how to stay sober, I had no idea what I was in for. I just wanted people to show me how not to drink.
mm,
But drinking is such a small part of this. It's running from life. It's not having the faith that you've got a higher power or you've got people out there that really care about you. If you're struggling with depression, that's serious, man. I'm just saying, reach out. All you got to do. Somebody told me a long time ago, if you share your experience with somebody, your pains, your sorrows, your hurts, uh, it cuts it in half right off the bat. You throw it out on the table, take a look at it, you and your buddy, and it takes that pain and it cuts it in half.
Hmm.
And that you can handle. But when you hold on to it, because I believe addiction wants you alone. If it's got you alone, it's got you. It will take your life. And I believe the same thing is true with depression. It wants you alone. And one of the hardest things is to do when you feel that way is to get up and to take some action. But life is so worth it, man. I absolutely love my life today. It is so incredible. I am excited to see what happens, later on this afternoon. I, I, trust me, life is good, and it's fun to have that outlook. Because I remember there was days, man, when I did not want to see the future. I did not want to face what was going to happen around the corner. So, see, I told you if I got started on something again, I'd probably just go off.
There we
Just
go.
go off. Here we go again.
Another hour.
Another episode.
Another episode. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, this has been great. I love it. Some new insights, some new stories, and some great philosophy. Even the tuk. Is that? Am I saying that right? Tuk philosophy. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
it's out of my life. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Brent. And
it's good.
We'll tell everyone, see you next time, and enjoy your time in Thailand.
Oh yeah, I will. I'll be here for a while, so we'll do this again from Thailand.
Sounds good. All right, see you, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Push Each Other to the Top. Brent's story is a reminder that even in our darkest moments, there's still a path forward and someone willing to walk it with us. If this episode meant something to you, share it. And if you're struggling right now, please know you're not alone. Follow the show wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss the next story. And if you can, leave a quick review. It helps more people find these conversations. New episodes drop soon, and we hope you'll come back. Continue listening for behind the scenes moment after we ended the episode. All right, cool. That was good, man.
Yeah, that was some new stuff.
Yeah.
It's so weird. And it's almost like I get this feeling like the direction this stuff goes, it's got a path of its own. I mean, it's like I'm just there for the ride. I don't know why I go to where I go. I don't know why I talk about what I talk about. It's just like I almost feel like I'm directed to go certain places for whatever reason. Yeah. And I don't think I always know that reason, or maybe there's somebody out there that needed to hear what I had to say, and I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Just
I love it.
I can't plan any of this.
No.
I can't sit down and plan, oh, this is what I'm going to say.
Yeah, no. That would ruin the authenticity. I think that's the power of what we're doing here. Is it's pure authentic experience and just your honest story of what you went through. And so I think people connect to that authenticity. It comes across from, speaking from the heart. A lot of people talk about that in the program, when you hear somebody talk, because you'll hear a lot of talks where it's almost like it can't, like somebody brings up step 3 and it's like people open their mouth and they gave the same step 3 talk 2 months ago, the same exact one. Mm-hmm. And there's people that talk from the heart and they share their experience and, what it meant to them and how they've walked through that. So yeah. A lot of authenticity, which I really, really like and enjoy. But I get done with one of these sessions and it just kind of blows my mind that, I definitely wanted to talk about my experience on top of Diamond Head. That was kind of my goal today, was to talk about how I walked through that emotional pain, because I think we all face that. You don't have to be an addict or an alcoholic to understand that emotional pain.